Rev up your engines!
Well, everybody's poo-pooing about Toyota. Oh, they're not making electric cars, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? They're road testing a prototype solid-state battery electric vehicle. Yes, they're actually road testing one. They said they're going to spend $13.6 billion on battery technologies by 2030. They now have a prototype vehicle that's running and driving with solid-state batteries in it. Now, that's a radical thing because if they don't have liquids and stuff, they don't have the problem with starting on fire. Production requires different materials. They charge faster, they're more energy dense, but the problem is they often have a very low lifespan. I tried out some and they didn't last all that long. And that was just in a motorcycle. It really doesn't use that much power. Cool looking little car. It's got a big thing on the side, powered by all solid state. So you know it's got an all solid state battery. They're conducting actual test drives with them. The main thing with solid state batteries is they're less flammable, so they're safer. Burning down Chevys. You want one of those electric cars? And it lets them run in a wider temperature window because they don't have any liquids in them. And they'll also be able to achieve greater power delivery and faster charging times because they don't have the overheating problems that the liquid ones do. And they're more energy dense, so you could get lighter vehicles that can go further, which is exactly what they want. The main problem they do have, like I say, is their discharge rate. Sometimes they discharge too fast, and their lifespan so far has been relatively limited. Like I said, I had one on a motorcycle, didn't last a year before it crapped out. Now Toyota says they want to launch a solid-state battery vehicle in the early 2020s. We'll see how the testing goes. Interesting technology. Who knows what's going to come out of it? They got to test them, though. At least I'll give that to Toyota. They test their stuff. They're not like some companies that just make it, oh, look, it's great, let's sell it to people, and then, boom, they start on fire. Jim Rutt says, my neighbor's got a Dodge Dakota. It shuts down erratically. It'll sputter and shut down. When he removes a battery cable and reconnects it, it runs again. He took it to mechanics in Dodge, and nobody can find out what it is. He's willing to pay to fix it, but nobody can figure it out. Vehicle dies, you disconnect the battery, and then wait a few minutes and connect it. That resets the computer. Obviously, the vehicle has a electronic fault that can be reset. It can be a sensor that shorts it out, a wiring short from the sensor to the computer that shorts out, or the computer itself. Well, I've worked on enough Dodges to know it's probably the computer. 90% of the time I see that in a Dodge, it's a bad computer. The circuits just go haywire, then you reset them and they work for a while and then they go haywire again. Now, if the vehicle's never been wrecked or flooded, I can just about guarantee you that it's the computer going out. Have him a good, real mechanic check it until it dies and he can get the data back and read it. But if it's been in a wreck or a flood, all bets are off. Since it's been damaged by flood or wreck, then it could be a zillion things. Good luck finding out which one it is. But from my experience, if it hasn't been wrecked or flooded, the computer's gone bad. Dodge makes crappy computers, and hey, 19-year-old one, and there's no surprise that the computer would have crapped up. I've seen some of those things that are 5, 6 years old, and the computers have crapped out already. So odds are it's the computer that's gone bad. You ever disconnect it and reconnect it? Same thing with, let's say your transmission shifts weird and you just disconnect the battery and put it back on. Transmission control module, that computer is bad. But it wouldn't matter on a Dodge because on the Dodge, they don't have separate transmission control modules on most of them. It's built into the main computer, the main power control module, so you'd have to change that anyways because it's all the same part. The TCM is inside the PCM. It used to be they were separate, but ages ago Dodge put them all in one to make them cheaper, so when they break, you have to buy a really expensive part. Oh, well, the computer is bad. We'll replace that, and you can spend a whole bunch of money on it because we put them all in that one stupid computer. Same thing with a lot of these companies with their fuse boxes. Now they're called intelligent power modules. Well, it's the fuse box, right? And they make them cheap, but everything's in it, so anything breaks, you got to replace the whole thing. You can't even buy relays because they're all soldered into the system, and you got to replace the whole thing. That's basically what they've done. Planned obsolescence. Mitsubishi for Life says, my friend has a Mercedes S500, trouble code P70300. Fluid's full, but it jerks when it switches gear from reverse to drive. Mechanic erases the code, and now it's saying drive it for the drive cycle. Do you think the TCM is bad or possibly the tranny? All right, now here's the thing. You're dealing with a high-tech Mercedes endless money pit car. You didn't say how many miles it has on it. From my experience of those, it is the TCM. But realize one thing. A lot of those Mercedes were poorly made. And the stupid wiring harness that goes into the transmission, they're all computer controlled with electronics. There's a seal there. The seal goes bad. And what happens is the transmission fluid starts seeping through the wires on the leak by osmosis. And the transmission fluid makes it up the wires, and then it gets to the transmission control module and then starts to short it out and ruin it. I see that all the time on those. It's a design flaw that anybody who works on Mercedes knows exists. exists. That's often the problem. So, I mean, basically, have them go to the transmission control module, that computer, unplug it. If you see those wires have automatic transmission fluid on them, that's the problem. And that's a big problem. They put all that technology in, and when it breaks, man, it just raises Cain. In the old cars, you didn't have to worry about that. They didn't have computer wires going in the transmission that then just wicked fluid when the seal leaked and then ruined the computer. But it happens in Mercedes regularly. Sepperton Sound says, do I really need an engine cover on my car? I got a 2019 Volkswagen Golf. The tech told me I didn't have an engine cover on the motor. Do you really need one? Not really. They call them beauty covers. Now, they only serve a purpose, basically, for one reason, is they help keep heat in the engine. If you live in Alaska where it's freezing cold in the winter, they help keep the heat on the engine. Right? I lived in Texas for 43 years. The last thing you want is heat on the engine. So a lot of guys take them off and throw them away there. They don't want any heat buildup on the engine. In a real cold climate, you do, but you don't need one. They call them beauty covers. Oh, look, they look cool with it. I think it's stupid. You bought that technology. Volkswagen has high technology. Why not open the hood and you get to see it instead of it hidden under a piece of plastic and fiberglass that snaps on the top? Really, don't waste your money buying it. And if you live in a hot climate, I'd remove it anyways. In the summer, at least. In the winter, maybe not. The summer. You don't want heat building up under there, all that plastic crap. That's one of the reasons Volkswagens, all the plastic crap on the engine breaks as they get older because all that heat's held in. And what does heat do to plastic? It ruins it. And when it gets too hot, the plasticizer dries up and evaporates, and then it becomes brittle, and that's why plastic cracks. I take it off myself. Cece says, Scotty, I have a Renault Megane Scenic 2000 with a sealed automatic transmission. Works fine in reverse. When I put it in drive, in any gear, it tries to move in high RPM but fails. Before I buy a new car, is this a sign of low fluid or something more problematic? It's a sealed transmission, right? So you can't check the dipstick. But it's very simple to analyze logically. If it's low on fluid, it could do that. I'm assuming you owned it for quite some time because it's a 2000. If it was low on fluid, that means it's leaking. Go under there. If the transmission's all covered in fluid, have a mechanic figure out how to add fluid with whatever crazy scenario the French have put into that thing. But if it's bone dry, no, your transmission's going out. There's nothing you can do but get another car. You got, what, 21 years out of a Renault? That's kind of a lot of mileage for a little French car. But you go under, if that transmission's bone dry, it's just shot. That's what happens when they go out. They'll rev high and they won't go in forward gears. The reverse can still work because you don't use reverse much, right? So it doesn't wear out as much. But the forward gears are used all the time. So when they wear out and it slips, but reverse still works, it's generally a sign that the tranny shot if the fluid's full. And of course, you know, even back in 2000, those scumbags didn't put dipstick so you could simply check it and know for sure. You know, they went, I'll bring it into the dealer. We'll tell you, and then we'll try to sell you $5,000 worth of crap. But odds are it's shot. If it's dry, I can just about guarantee you that tranny's shot. Well, Porsche is breaking ground on a synthetic fuel plant where they're making fuel synthetically, and they claim that it's a same carbon footprint as electric energy, considering the building of the car and all that stuff. You know, who knows what action's coming out of it. I'm hoping that their fuel won't be as expensive as their cars, because the Porsches are outrageous, and I'm sure the fuel's going to be expensive too. Now, this is in Punta Arenas in Chile, South America is where they're doing it. They claim it's carbon neutral, but it's going to be burned in normal combustion engines like we have now. They're going to use electrolysis to create oxygen and hydrogen from water, and then they're capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Realize it's possible with today's technology. Cars burn, main thing they give out is carbon dioxide, a lot of it, right? Well, then they can take that carbon dioxide back out of the air, turn fuel in it, and make a whole cycle out of it. It's doable if you want to spend the energy. Now, Porsche claims that all the electricity is going to come from wind power. It's probably why it's in Chile. It gets really windy there. They got big old mountains. They're in the Andes, so they got a lot of wind. They're claiming that with the synthetic fuel, the carbon footprint is less than electric cars when you include all the pollution that goes into effect building the electric cars and making the electricity. They said in 2022, they're going to make 34,000 gallons. And then by 2024, they said they're going to make 14.5 million gallons. So they're obviously, stacking it up there to see what they can do with this stuff. Now, they say they're trying to get it below $7.50 a gallon. So obviously, like I said, be wary of Porsche. If they're making fuel, it'll probably be as expensive as their cars. But who knows how things scale out in the future, what's actually going to go on. Are they going to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere atmosphere that the cars put in. If though, you can make a cycle and then it doesn't really matter. Technology goes a lot further than you might think. You remember that old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Total Recall, I believe it was, where they wanted to turn Mars into Earth and they had big giant machines to create oxygen. So who knows what's going to happen. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.